Hi. Is this Q&A? Is that what it is?
Yes, sir. That's what it is.
All right. Well, I guess we better get some Q's. So
oh, give you some A's.
Start with some A's.
Quick reminder of everybody. The way we do things here is raise your hand. I'll bring the mic out. That way the person over here can hear what you have to say.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rysdale. This question is for Mr. Rysdale.
Oh, there.
Hold on.
Okay.
We would like your work on Justified. How was it like to be on that set?
On the Justified set?
Yeah.
It's a great set to be on. Everyone's very nice, and it's a lot of fun. Feels a little dangerous at times, but you know, my guy is not, you know, the most machismo sort of fellow on the show. But
you're not a cowboy.
Not a cowboy, not a gunslinger, not any of that stuff. But it's good. Everyone's really great. Tim's wonderful, funny, chatty. He's not really, you know, what you see on the screen too much. But it's good. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm looking for other questions. Here comes one now.
This is for William. I just wanted to know if you have any inside information on a DVD release for Herman's Head.
No, I do not, and I don't think there's. From what I can tell, there's not going to be one. I don't know why. I think there's some ownership issues between some of the producing partners of it, and no one's really sure who owns what or anything. So I don't know. A lot of people have asked, and I'm sure it would be a good thing if they did it. But you don't have some information.
I don't know. Yeah. No.
Whatever that is. No, I don't know.
This question is for Mr. Serrano. You had a varied career as far as acting goes. I'm wondering, when you originally took the film Fright, was the horror genre something that you were interested in, or it was just another character to play, or? Well,
it's funny. I just it showed up in print. Actually, I did an interview recently about the new movie and etc. etc. They were asking me basically the same question, and I said, well, you know, when I got the script, I had just finished playing Sidney Carton and Charles Darnay in Tale of Two Cities at the Hallmark Hall of Fame, and I had a very, you know, I had a classical career going and an Academy Award nomination. And I couldn't do a vampire movie. Come on, you know, what are you doing? And so they sent me the script, and I said, well, I have to be polite because they're very interested in my doing this movie. I'll sit down and read it, and an hour and 30 minutes later, I accept I have to do this effing movie. The script was, I mean, Bill can attest to this. Tom Holland's original script for Fright Night was one of the best original scripts I've ever read. It was brilliantly constructed. Hi, sweetie.
We'll get to your question. Yeah, we'll get to
it was brilliantly constructed. I thought it was just an unrivaled and unusual way of looking at the whole vampire genre, but at the same time it had a real sort of classical feel to it. The characters were all very specifically drawn, they were very clearly drawn out, and so I thought, I gotta meet this guy, and so I flew out to LA and I sat down with Tom Holland and the producer, Herb Jaffe, is that the producer? Herb Jaffe, and Thomas at the time had never directed a movie before. He had a bunch of scripts that had been produced, so he was a successful screenwriter, but he'd never had a movie that he directed. And he said, here's what I want to do. I want to describe this movie to you from the first shot to the last shot. And for the next couple hours, Tom literally described the way he was going to shoot the movie. Every shot. And when he was done, I went, where do I sign? You know, this doesn't happen. And then it was cast, and Bill was cast, and Amanda, and Roddy, which was a great, also an amazing coup. And we all spent time together working on the script before we actually did the picture, because Tom had been an actor, and so he believed in the process of finding the characters, both from our own personal standpoint and also through rehearsal. And I think that also shows up in the movie, in that the relationships are very clear, very strong, and the acting scenes are, I think, above and beyond what most movies in the genre are like. So that was the kind of genesis of my participation in the project. Thank you.
Chris?
Al, where are you?
This is about Bordel of Blood.
It's about what?
Bordel of Blood.
Bordel. Okay.
What was it like working with Corey Feldman on that set?
Actually, I didn't work very much with Corey. If you look at the movie...
that was in his contract.
I think there were just a couple of scenes. But most of my scenes were with Dennis Miller and Erica Leniak. And it was just that section toward the end where I worked with Corey. So I can't really give you an opinion other than he seemed, he was a working actor. And it was fine. Yes, ma'am.
Chris, go back to your earlier roots, lipstick.
Yes.
How did you get into the mindset of playing that type of a character? And what was it like working with the Hemingway girls?
And what was it like working with the Hemingway girls? Those of you who may or may not be familiar with the movie Lipstick, it was made at a time when a big sort of feminist bone of contention was the objectification of women and the way women were portrayed in advertising, particularly. And at the time, Margot Hemingway was a very young, she was like 18 years old. She was just literally took New York by storm. She was like a 6 foot 1 inch, big sort of healthy Idaho girl from the Ernest Hemingway family. She was related to Hemingway through her father, Jack, who was Hemingway's son. And so she seemed the perfect casting because she was on the cover of every magazine around at the time. Also at the time, I just finished doing a movie called Dog Day Afternoon. Not just finished it, but it had been out, and I'd gotten a lot of notoriety for it. And the producer, Freddie Fields, thought it would be really interesting for me to play, instead of playing, to type, quote unquote, playing a drag queen, a transsexual, that it would be interesting for me to play a rapist. And so I went along with it. My misspent youth. And it was a great experience because it was about something important. The character was an interesting character, a very strange, sort of flawed music teacher who ends up molesting these two young women. They ended up casting Margot's younger sister, Marielle Hemingway, who has since then become a very well-known actress herself. So it was a great experience. The director was a good director from television, but has made really great movies in television. Lon Johnson, who I think just passed away recently. So it was a very cool experience.
Chris, and really this is for both of you. Working on Fright Night with Ronnie McDowell, one of my all-time favorite actors. Could you tell us a little something about working with him? You look like he was having a whole match.
It was like a dream come true for me. I had grown up watching, the Apes movies and Night Gallery and even the Lassie, everything from in his career. And
How Green Was My Valley?
It was very, very. But yeah, and everything. And so it was a real treat. At that point, he was sort of. I think he would admit that his career was kind of slowing and a bit of a lull.
Yeah.
And he really wanted the part, he really wanted to play that role, and got it, and it was great. It was perfect casting, and I just felt like I was, stepping onto, a piece of history, and that's what it was too. I mean, his stories, he was full of stories, and he knew everybody, and knew the dirt on everybody, and it was
great stories. We spent a lot of time on a movie set, sitting around waiting for things to get set up. So we'd spend a lot of time together. And a lot of time sitting and talking with Roddy and hearing these amazing stories about his childhood, literally, in Hollywood and how he grew up. And by the way, I would recommend to every person here, if you're not familiar with it, if you want to see one of the great Roddy McDowall performances ever, watch a movie called How Green Was My Valley, which is directed by John Ford, one of the greatest American directors ever. And it's an extraordinary performance when Roddy was, what, like 6 years old or 7? And it's stunning, and the movie is unbelievable. And he was the sort of person who, years after you worked with him, on your birthday, wherever he was in the world, you got a postcard.